in case you missed it, good news here. NFL media insider Ian Rappaport reporting Patrick Mahomes is expected to play Sunday against the Titans. So barring any setbacks, we'll see him in the lineup. Rank, full confidence in the MVP if he's out there?
Yeah, of course. Oh, do you think I'm going to be the idiot who doesn't start Patrick Mahomes
I had to ask.
when he's ready to go? What kind of question is this? Are you setting me up? The Titans have allowed 6 touchdown passes since Week 7. That is tied for the 7th most in the NFL, and it's Patrick Mahomes. Next question.
Fine. Good news in New Orleans. Running back Alvin Kamara should be good to go Sunday against the Falcons. Head coach Sean Payton saying that today, which means Kamara, who missed 2 games leading up to their Week 9 bye with knee and ankle injuries, back out there. He's only broken 20 fantasy points, though, twice this season. Marcus, do you expect a big 3rd game this week?
I absolutely do. I mean, part of it is they're playing the Falcons. We've talked about their defense plenty this season. The other part of it is, look, man, this battle station is fully operational. Drew Brees is back. Alvin Kamara is back. I expect them to continue to roll. At the same time, though, I wouldn't be afraid to still roll with Latavius Murray in a flex. I think there's still a spot for him in this offense.
Yeah, I'm somewhat curious as to what Latavius Murray's 32 points in each of Kamara's absences will do to Kamara's workload as we get you a few more injuries to watch this week. Le'Veon Bell limited at practice today after sitting out yesterday. Amari Cooper is getting a precautionary MRI on his knee, although Ian Rappaport says that Jason Garrett seemed optimistic that Cooper would play on Sunday. A.J. Green says his injured ankle swelled up in practice and will not make his return
the saga
to
continues.
the lineup this weekend. James Conner also expected to be down for the Steelers as they get set for the Rams on Sunday. And in our nation's capital, some good news to report here. Running back Darius Geis has been activated off injured reserve. Now, he's been out since week 1 with a knee injury. Is he a must-add now for fantasy managers?
No doubt about that. I mean, we're in week 10 here. How many times is a running back with his level of talent on the waiver wire at this point in the fantasy season? And you also got to look at the schedule, right? The Redskins have the 3rd easiest schedule for running backs the rest of the way. And you would think, considering the Redskins aren't going anywhere, that they're going to give Darius Geis a very long look for the rest of the season.
Now, the Redskins are on a bye this week, and it is kind of bye-mageddon here in Week 10. 6 teams on a bye, and a bunch of those teams have players that are top 12 at their position getting the week off, like the Texans, who have a trio of players in Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, and then tight end Darren Fells. You've got the QB to wide receiver connection in New England, and then also Fournette and DJ Chark for the Jags. Zach Ertz, coming off his best game of the season, is now on a bye. But no need to fear. Get your gold medals ready. The stream team is here. We've assembled a super squad of streamers at every position to help patch your lineup.
It's a team.
It is.
It's a team.
It is. Kick us off here with a replacement quarterback.
Yeah, and that will be Ryan Tannehill for me. I mean, you got to look at this guy's numbers the last 3 weeks. 19-plus fantasy points in every game, 20-plus last week. He's got the Chiefs this week. They have a lot of top 9 fantasy quarterback in 3 of their last 4 games. And Tannehill is on the waiver wire in a lot of leagues, guys.
Yeah, it's been kind of tough to identify his favorite receiver as he's been starting, though. And Marcus, you want to give us a running back?
Yeah, Jamal Williams. And we've been saying for weeks that both Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones are startable. They've both been in the mix for the Packers. Williams has a receiving touchdown in 4 straight games. And, you know, we were worried about what would happen to him when Devontae Adams came back. But last week, Adams made his return. Williams had a season-high 6 targets, so he's still very much in the mix in Green Bay.
Yeah, 18 points per game since week 6 for Jamal Williams. Frank, you got another runner?
Bye-mageddon, a.k.a. am I really starting Gus Edwards this week? And you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do it. Why not? Let's get crazy. And you know what? I understand this is going to be a closer game than a lot of people are expecting. The Ravens are coming off a huge win, so they are going to be due, for a little bit of a letdown, but they've scored the most points in the NFL this season. They've run the ball more than almost everybody this year, and the Bengals have allowed the most rushing yards per game or for the entire season. So yes, I'm starting Gus Edwards.
So you've got the hype train and the Gus bus today.
Yeah,
We've got all kinds of transportation. I love it. Okay, guys, I'm going to give you a receiver. How about Cole Beasley? He's had a receiving touchdown in each of his last 3 games. And Cleveland, by the way, allowing 6 touchdowns to slot receivers. That's 3rd most in the NFL. And, of course, that's where Cole Beasley does a lot of his work. And all of those 3 TDs I was mentioning have come inside the red zone. So he's kind of developing a nice rapport with Josh Allen in that area, which could be valuable. Fabs, you got another receiver?
Yeah, right. I'm kind of digging on Zach Pascal. You look at his numbers last week, played 94% of the offensive snaps, had double-digit fantasy points, and now he's got the Miami Dolphins. They've given up 7 touchdowns and over 14 yards per catch to receivers lined out wide. That's where Pascal ran 77% of his routes last week. This is a guy who will be the #1 option and the most targeted Colts wide receiver this week, regardless of who the quarterback is.
And could be beyond this week as well.
T.Y. Hilton's out.
Could miss
Yes,
the next 2 to 3 weeks. Marcus, how about a tight end?
Well, you know, 16 years ago today, the movie Elf was released. And
Is
I've
that
got,
right?
I've got another holiday classic.
One hair's the
Kyle Rudolph.
Hey-o.
Exactly. Look, we talk about this passing game in Minnesota and how it's been elevated over the last few weeks. First 5 weeks of the season, Kyle Rudolph averaged 1.5 targets per game. The last 4 weeks, that number's bumped up to about 4 targets per game with touchdowns in 2 of the last 3. And now with no Adam Thielen this week against the Dallas Cowboys, there could be even more targets going Rudolph's way.
Dallas' defense, a little vulnerable to the tight end position this season. How about a defense now, Adam Rank?
I'm going to say the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, I want to dive into Zoe Deschanel's IMDb page because he mentioned Elf. But I do like this matchup for the Chiefs because the Tennessee Titans have allowed the 4th most fantasy points to opposing defenses since Week 6.
I love the sacks and the turnovers with the defenses, and the Chiefs right there, a top 10 sack team this season. It is time now for the Colonel's Corner presented by KFC. I'm here with Michael Fabiano, our official NFL.com player rankings wizard.
Wizard.
You're the wizard now.
Never been called a wizard before.
Well, there you go. First for everything. Yeah. We're looking at guys, though, who have moved up the most in your rankings this week. Fab, starting with a wideout. What do you think?
Yeah, man, Emmanuel Sanders is really moving up. Since he made that trade over to the San Francisco 49ers, he has put up a combined 36.7 fantasy points. Big game against Seattle on Monday night. The Seahawks have allowed 2 top 6 wide receivers and the most fantasy points to the position over their last 2 games.
CD in each game is a Niner. How about a running back?
David Montgomery, and last week, didn't love the matchup. He put up 2 touchdowns. This week, you love the matchup. No team in the National Football League is giving up more fantasy points to running backs than the Detroit Lions. So this is a great matchup for the rookie.
And Montgomery's touches have gone way up in the last 2 weeks. And a quarterback that you're liking, Fab.
I'm going with Kyler Murray. Last week, didn't love the matchup against the 49ers. This week, it is a great one. This could be the highest scoring game of the week against the Buccaneers. Their defense has allowed 21 total touchdowns and over 22 fantasy points per game. The quarterback, so the rookie, Kyler Murray, should put up a nice stat line.
Fabs, is there a scenario where Kareem Hunt has standalone value yet doesn't decrease the value of Nick Chubb?
No, that can't happen.
Right.
That can't happen. And if you think that Nick Chubb isn't going to lose some snaps and touches to Kareem Hunt, you're living in a fantasy world. Let's put it that way. He hasn't played Hunt, that is, since Week 11 of last year with the Kansas City Chiefs. And this season so far, Nick Chubb has handled 84% of the backfield touches. He's played 74% of the offensive snaps. You got to expect both of those numbers to decline. Now, I'll give you an example. Last year, after Carlos Hyde was traded to Jacksonville and they had Duke Johnson on the roster, Nick Chubb played 76% of the 76% of the touches and played 58% of the snaps. So you're going to see a little bit of a decline. Maybe not initially, maybe not this week,
right.
But overall, Nick Chubb is going to lose a little bit of value to Kareem Hunt.
The one thing I will say that's interesting is that offensive coordinator Todd Monken making comments basically saying, we're not going to change what we're doing to try to accommodate one person, suggesting that maybe they don't just try to shoehorn Kareem Hunt in there. Now, mind you, what they've been doing so far has them at 2-6. So I don't know if maybe they switch things up.
And you're looking at the depth chart there. I don't think that really matters much to how they're going to call this game. The one thing that I'd be also interested in is Nick Chubb. You think back to the Ravens game and also the Patriots game. There have been some big plays, some chunk plays in there. So even if his volume comes down a little bit, there might still be a little bit of that big play potential. Cardinals also represent one of these running back conundrums, especially now that David Johnson is back healthy. How many people had Kenyon Drake on their roster last week and didn't start him? That was me. What are we doing this week with it?
We're trying to figure it out. I mean, this really is a watch and see week because this is the first time we're going to see these two guys together in the same offense. Now, what we're sort of hoping for is that the versatility of David Johnson sort of makes this a situation where Cliff Kingsbury decides to put them both on the field at the same time. If we look up where some of these guys line up, in their respective offenses. I guess Kenyon Drake now with the Cardinals and David Johnson in his time there. You see, David Johnson spends a lot of time, or at least more time, out wide or in the slot as lined up as a wide receiver. Kenyon Drake, not so much. So maybe we see a situation where Cliff Kingsbury finds a way to put them both on the field at the same time, allowing them to both get some opportunities. Now, when Chase Edmonds comes back from an injury, that throws a whole big wrench into this thing right now.
I actually, until Chase Edmonds comes back, I really do believe both of these players will be able to be startable in your leagues. And I really like the opportunity for Kenyon Drake to kind of be the lead runner in this offense while DJ ends up being more of a receiver type.
This week, though, Tampa Bay has been pretty stingy to the running backs, although that's because a lot of teams are just passing all over them this year. Okay, Adam, back to you here with the Bucs now. As Bruce Arians has come out and said Ronald Jones has been the more explosive back. He has now earned the right to be the starting back. Does that change how you feel about it?
Yeah, if only, he had something to do with it before. Like, I'm glad you finally got the approval to start giving the ball to Ronald Jones. We've been asking for this for quite some time. And listen, I've been a big Ron Jones fan going back to his time at USC and thought he could come in and immediately make an impact with the Buccaneers, and that just wasn't the case. But slowly but surely, it was one of those situations where you just had to kind of stay the course with them. I knew, I drafted him in a lot of spots super late. I'm like, at some point, the talent is going to win out, and Bruce Arians is effectively going to just hand him the reins and let him take this backfield over. And I really do believe that it's going to start this week in a revenge game for Bruce Arians. The only problem with that, though, is he's losing goal line snaps to Dare, right? Like that's just base. We can't have everything perfect. There's always got to be some little wrinkle where you're like, of course, Dare is going to go in there and score a touchdown.
Maybe this is the reason why the Buccaneers didn't go out and get a running back in the draft or in free agency, because Arians saw something in Rojo, and now we're seeing the benefit of that.
And if you have Peyton Barber on your roster, well, I guess you probably shouldn't.
That's
one of those considerations.